Welcome back to Greatness Unlocked. Thank you for joining me today. If you find any value here, I humbly ask that you hit the like and subscribe. Ladies and gentlemen, today we delve into one of the most insidious of the 7 deadly sins: greed. Greed is not merely a desire for more, it is an insatiable hunger that devours the soul, a relentless longing for wealth, possessions, power, or any gains that one can amass. It's a stark contrast to the humility and generosity that our spiritual lives call us to embody. Greed, known in theological terms as avarice or covetousness, represents a disordered love of riches that can spiral into hoarding and a pervasive sense of dissatisfaction. It turns our gaze inward, focusing on our own gain while neglecting the needs and happiness of those around us. It is a selfish desire that, when left unchecked, can lead to devastating consequences, not just for ourselves, but for our relationships and our spiritual well-being. Imagine a life consumed by an insatiable desire. You wake up each day, driven by the belief that if you just had a bit more, whether it's money, power, status, or even food, then you would be happy. But happiness, my friends, is not found in the endless accumulation of material goods. No amount of wealth can fill the void that greed creates. You become like a bottomless pit, endlessly seeking to fill yourself, yet always feeling emptier than before. This selfishness, this desire to hoard rather than share, harms not only our personal lives, but also our communal existence. It erects barriers between us and those who need our help. Greed fosters a culture of isolation, where relationships are sacrificed on the altar of personal gain. We see this manifest in the world today, a world where ultra-wealthy individuals exploit tax loopholes to avoid contributing their fair share, while countless others struggle to meet their basic needs. It's a grotesque imbalance that reflects a deep spiritual neglect. Consider the words of the Bible, where greed is explicitly condemned. The 10 Commandments warn against coveting the goods of others, and Proverbs reminds us that those who are greedy for unjust gain make trouble for their households. In the New Testament, Jesus cautions us to guard against all kinds of greed, reminding us that life does not consist in the abundance of possessions. Greed is not just a personal failing, it's a societal affliction. In 2008, Pope Benedict XVI identified greed as the root cause of the global economic crisis. He spoke of a culture that prioritizes profit over people, a culture that has lost sight of ethical responsibility. His successor, Pope Francis, has been equally vocal, linking greed to a throwaway culture and calling it an addiction that fuels wars and conflicts while contributing to the climate crisis. But let us not forget the artistic representations of this sin. The painter Hieronymus Bosch, in his masterpiece Table of the 7 Deadly Sins, illustrates greed with striking imagery. A well-dressed woman surrounded by coins, a toad at her feet embodying the grotesque nature of avarice. Similarly, Dante Alighieri, in his Inferno, places the greedy in the 4th circle of hell, where they eternally joust with one another, symbolizing their futile struggle for wealth. In popular culture, we see greed portrayed vividly in Oliver Stone's film Wolves of Wall Street, where the character Gordon Gekko famously declares, "Greed, for lack of a better word, is good." This mantra embodies the very essence of capitalism gone awry, a worldview that elevates self-interest above all else, often at the expense of community and morality. Yet, amidst this darkness, there is hope. The antidote to greed is found in generosity and charity. Generosity shifts our focus outward, encouraging us to desire the happiness of others rather than just our own gain. It cultivates gratitude, allowing us to recognize our material possessions as gifts rather than entitlements. By embracing gratitude, we can counteract the relentless desire for more and foster a spirit of contentment. Intentionality is another powerful tool against greed. In a world that constantly bombards us with messages urging us to buy, acquire, and consume, we must learn to discern between wants and needs, delaying purchases, reflecting on our motivations, and practicing mindful consumption can help us resist the pull of materialism. Let us also remember the wisdom of St. Thomas Aquinas, who wrote that while it is natural for humans to desire external things to sustain life, covetousness is an immoderate desire that exceeds this natural inclination. He pointed out that greed gives rise to other vices: treachery, fraud, falsehood, and insensitivity to mercy. Greed is not an isolated sin. It is a gateway to a host of destructive behaviors that can consume us. As we reflect on the nature of greed, we must ask ourselves, how does it manifest in our own lives? Are there areas where we hoard rather than share? Moments when our selfish desires overshadow our relationships with others? In conclusion, I urge you to consider the profound consequences of greed. It leads to a lack of satisfaction, damaged relationships, and ultimately a life devoid of true joy. Instead of chasing after wealth and possessions, let us strive for a life rich in love, generosity, and meaningful connections. May we cultivate a spirit of gratitude, recognizing that the greatest treasures in life are not material, but found in our relationships and our connection to the divine. As we turn away from greed and towards generosity, we can begin to heal not only ourselves, but the world around us. In the end, greed is not merely a flaw of character. It is a distortion of the human spirit. It whispers that we never have enough, that happiness lies just beyond the next possession, the next promotion, the next indulgence. But in chasing more, we lose sight of what truly matters: compassion, humility, and our duty to one another. To overcome greed, we must remember that true wealth is not measured in bank accounts or possessions, but in the generosity of our hearts. When we choose to give rather than grasp, to share rather than hoard, we reclaim our humanity. Gratitude transforms what we have into enough, and charity opens our hands to those in need. Let us leave here today reminded that the cure for greed is not deprivation, but love for God, for neighbor, and for the world entrusted to our care. May we learn to see abundance not in what we own, but in what we give. For only when we loosen greed's grip can we discover the true richness of life.